Every so often, two worlds that almost never touch end up occupying the same headline. On one side, a global pop star, one of the most followed musicians on the planet, built from a decade of stadium tours and record-breaking solo hits. On the other, the family behind the largest luxury empire on earth, a business dynasty whose name sits quietly on the label of nearly 100 brands most people wear, carry, or buy, without ever thinking about who's actually behind them. Lisa's life has, over the past few years, intersected with the Arnault family and the LVMH fashion world in two very different ways at once. One professional and fully documented, one personal and never confirmed by anyone involved. So what does it actually mean when a modern celebrity's career and personal life both happen to run through the same powerful industry family? Let's look at what's actually known, and what still, honestly, isn't. This video walks through both threads of this story: Lisa's genuine, well-documented professional relationship with LVMH's fashion houses, and the separate, unconfirmed public speculation about her personal life, and explores why the overlap between them has captured so much public attention. Part 1. Who is Lisa? Quick context. For viewers less familiar with her, here's the quick version. Lisa, born Lalisa Manoban in Thailand, rose to global fame as a member of Blackpink, one of the best-selling K-pop groups in history. Alongside the group's stadium tours and record-breaking releases, she's built a substantial solo career of her own. Chart-topping singles, her own entertainment company, and an expanding acting resume, including a role in HBO's The White Lotus. Beyond music, Lisa has become one of the most recognizable faces in global fashion and luxury branding. She's reportedly one of the most followed musicians in the world on social media, a fact that luxury houses have paid close attention to, given how directly that kind of reach translates into visibility for a brand. Over the past several years, she's built a genuinely substantial portfolio of ambassador roles and campaigns across the fashion, jewelry, and lifestyle industries, a career thread that exists entirely independently of anything else in her personal life, and one we'll dig into in more detail shortly. Alongside her music career, Lisa has also expanded into acting, taken on roles as a cultural ambassador for her home country of Thailand, and continued to headline major international stages and award shows. Each of these threads has added to a public profile that now extends well beyond the K-pop industry she started in, which is part of why her name shows up so consistently across entertainment, fashion, and business coverage alike. In short, by the mid-2020s, Lisa wasn't just a musician with a fashion habit. She had become one of the industry's most sought-after global faces in her own right. Part 2. The Arnault family and LVMH, what makes them so significant. To understand why this story generates so much interest, it helps to understand exactly how significant the Arnault family and LVMH actually are in the business world. LVMH, short for Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton, is widely regarded as the world's largest luxury conglomerate, built and expanded over decades under Chairman Bernard Arnault. Its portfolio reportedly spans somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 individual houses, spread across fashion, jewelry, watches, wines and spirits, and cosmetics. Names under that umbrella reportedly include Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, Fendi, Celine, Bulgari, Tiffany and Company, Moet and Chandon, and Sephora, among many others. Brands most people encounter individually, rarely realizing how many of them trace back to the same parent company. Bernard Arnault himself has for decades been described as one of the most powerful figures in the global fashion and luxury business, and has consistently ranked among the wealthiest people in the world according to outlets like Forbes. His approach, acquiring storied independent fashion and luxury houses and folding them into a single corporate structure while largely preserving each brand's individual identity, is widely credited with reshaping how the modern luxury industry operates. That model, built up over roughly 4 decades, is a large part of why LVMH is so often described in business coverage as fashion's most powerful dynasty, rather than simply its largest company. Various members of the Arnault family reportedly hold executive roles across different divisions of the company, continuing a pattern common among family-controlled conglomerates of this scale. One of those family members, Frederic Arnault, reportedly serves as CEO of Tag Heuer, the watch brand within LVMH's portfolio. A professional role we'll come back to later in this video. Since it's directly relevant to the public speculation surrounding Lisa, the scale here matters, because it's part of why any celebrity's connection to this world, professional or personal, tends to draw outsized attention. LVMH isn't just a fashion company, it's arguably the closest thing the luxury industry has to a single unified royal family, with individual houses that each carry more than a century of independent history, now operating under one shared corporate roof. Stories that touch that world in any capacity tend to be treated with a corresponding level of fascination. Part 3. Lisa's professional ties to the LVMH world. With that context in place, here's what's actually documented about Lisa's own professional relationship with the LVMH world. And it's a relationship that predates any of the personal speculation we'll get into later. Lisa's ties to LVMH-owned brands reportedly go back to 2019, when she became closely associated with Celine, then under the creative direction of Hedi Slimane, serving as a muse and ambassador for the house for several years. In July 2024, Lisa was officially announced as a house ambassador for Louis Vuitton, with the brand's creative leadership publicly describing her fashion sensibility as aligned with the house's direction. Since then, she's reportedly appeared at multiple Louis Vuitton runway shows during Paris Fashion Week, featured in the brand's global campaigns, and represented the house at international events. She's also reportedly held an ambassador role with Bulgari, another LVMH-owned jewelry and watch house, since 2020, appearing in campaigns for the brand's signature collections and attending its high-profile jewelry events across Europe. Beyond LVMH specifically, Lisa's broader brand portfolio reportedly includes major partnerships with companies entirely outside the Arnault-owned world, including a global ambassador role with Nike, announced in early 2026. A detail worth noting, since it underscores that her career as a fashion and brand ambassador is broad-based and independently earned, not confined to any one family of companies. It's also worth noting the timeline here specifically, because it matters for the rest of this video. Lisa's association with LVMH-owned brands began in 2019, years before any public speculation about her personal life ever surfaced. Her move from Celine to Louis Vuitton in 2024 was reported by fashion trade outlets in the same way any major ambassador change is reported, through official brand statements and creative direction commentary, with no indication from any brand, publication, or party involved that anything beyond her fashion profile factored into the decision. Taken together, this is a career built the way most major ambassador relationships are built in the fashion industry, through years of visibility, cultural relevance, and a track record of moving the needle for brands that work with her. It's a legitimate, well-earned professional partnership. Full stop. Part 4. Where personal life and public speculation enter the picture. Separately from any of her professional fashion work, Lisa's personal life has also drawn public attention. Specifically, years of unconfirmed public speculation about a relationship with Frederic Arnault, the same Tag Heuer CEO mentioned earlier. According to widely circulated entertainment coverage, public interest in a possible relationship between them first emerged around 2023, after the two were reportedly seen together in public on multiple occasions. In the time since, entertainment outlets have periodically reported on further public sightings, and fan communities have closely tracked any perceived clue, a photo, an appearance, a social media interaction, as evidence one way or another. Coverage of this speculation has appeared across entertainment outlets in multiple regions, often searchable under terms like Lisa dating rumors or Lisa Frederic Arnault, a reflection of just how long and how widely this particular storyline has circulated. It's important to be precise here. This remains, to this day, entirely unconfirmed by either Lisa or Frederic Arnault. Neither has issued a public statement addressing the relationship, its status, or really any aspect of it. Everything that circulates about it, including anything referenced in other coverage of this story, comes from reported sightings, fan interpretation, and media speculation, not from either party directly. That's a distinction worth sitting with, given how many years this particular storyline has now run. That distinction matters a great deal for the rest of this video, because it's the dividing line between the two threads we're examining. 1. A professional relationship with LVMHs. Fashion houses that's fully documented through public announcements and campaigns. The other, a personal relationship that remains entirely speculative, however long it's been discussed. We won't be relitigating every detail of that speculation here. This video is specifically about how these two separate threads intersect in the public imagination, not a full relationship timeline. Part 5. Why the public can't stop talking about this overlap. So why has this particular overlap, a pop star's public life intersecting with fashion's most storied business dynasty, captured so much sustained attention? Part of it is simply the rarity of the pairing. Celebrity culture and the luxury business world already overlap constantly through ambassador deals and campaigns. But it's far less common for a celebrity's personal life to also involve a family this central to that same industry. When those two layers exist at once, audiences naturally find it more narratively interesting than either one alone would be. It reads less like a routine celebrity story, and more like something out of a novel, even though nothing about it is fictional. There's also a broader human tendency worth naming. Honestly, Audiences often look for a single unifying story to explain complex public lives, especially when two threads, a career and a personal relationship, happen to touch the same institution. It can feel narratively satisfying to imagine that one thread somehow explains the other. But feeling narratively satisfying and being accurate are two very different things, and there's no actual evidence connecting Lisa's fashion career to her personal life in any causal way. Her documented ambassador history began years before the personal speculation ever surfaced, and it's built on the same track record of global influence that's earned her partnerships completely unrelated to the Arnault family, like her Nike deal. There's also a simpler, less cynical explanation for the fascination. People are genuinely curious about how modern fame actually works at this scale. How someone becomes influential enough to be courted by both a fashion dynasty's business side and, separately, rumored to be connected to it personally. That's a genuinely interesting question about the nature of contemporary celebrity, without needing to assume anything sinister or calculated about anyone involved. It's also worth acknowledging that fascination with insider access is nothing new. Long before social media, audiences were captivated by stories of entertainers marrying into old money families or business dynasties intersecting with Hollywood. What's changed isn't really the appeal of the story. It's the speed and volume at which fans can now trade theories, screenshots, and half-formed timelines in real time, which makes a story like this feel far more present and urgent than equivalent stories would have a generation ago. Understanding that instinct, the pull toward a single tidy narrative, doesn't mean indulging it. It just means recognizing why so many people keep returning to this story, even without new information to justify it. Part 6. Separating what's documented from what's speculation. Let's lay this out as plainly as possible, because keeping these two threads separate is the whole point of this video. Documented and confirmed, Lisa's ambassador history with Celine beginning around 2019, her official appointment as a Louis Vuitton house ambassador in July 2024, her ongoing ambassador role with Bulgari since 2020, and her broader portfolio of brand partnerships, including ones entirely outside LVMH. These are facts that have been publicly announced by the brands themselves, covered by fashion trade press, and are not in dispute. Each of these roles came with its own public announcement, campaign imagery, and press coverage, the kind of paper trail that makes them straightforwardly verifiable, unlike almost everything else in this story. Unconfirmed and speculative, any characterization of a personal relationship with Frederic Arnault, including whether one exists, its current status, or any detail about it beyond reported public sightings. Also unconfirmed, any suggestion anywhere that her professional ambassador roles are connected to, caused by, or influenced by her personal life. No public statement from Lisa, her representatives, Frederic Arnault or LVMH, has ever linked these two threads together. That connection exists only in public conjecture. It's worth being direct about why this separation matters. Conflating a well-earned professional career with unconfirmed personal speculation isn't just inaccurate. It risks reducing years of independently documented professional achievement to a footnote in someone else's story. Lisa's fashion career stands on its own, built well before this personal speculation ever existed, and deserves to be understood that way. Keeping these two threads distinct isn't just a journalistic formality, it's the difference between reporting what's known and constructing a narrative that isn't actually supported by anything on the record. Part 7. The broader pattern. Celebrities and luxury dynasties. It's also worth putting Lisa's fashion career in a wider industry context, because none of this is unique to her. Major luxury houses have for decades built long-term ambassador relationships with the world's biggest entertainers. A mutually beneficial, extremely well-established industry practice. Actors, musicians, and athletes regularly become the public face of fashion and jewelry houses, precisely because their global reach and cultural relevance translate directly into brand visibility, while the association gives the celebrity access to some of the most prestigious creative institutions in the world. This pattern is especially visible within Lisa's own group. Each of Blackpink's 4 members has reportedly built an ambassador relationship with a major fashion house over the years, a well-documented reflection of how eager luxury brands have become to align with globally influential K-pop artists specifically. Viewed that way, Lisa's own path through Celine and into Louis Vuitton looks less like an unusual or standalone story, and more like part of a broader, well-established industry trend that's reshaped how luxury houses approach global celebrity partnerships over the past decade. This same pattern shows up well beyond K-pop, too. Major film and music stars across generations have taken on long-running ambassador roles with fashion and jewelry houses, often for years or even decades at a time, precisely because Those partnerships tend to benefit both sides. The brand gains cultural relevance and reach, and the celebrity gains association with an institution built on craftsmanship and heritage. None of this is new, and none of it requires any explanation beyond ordinary business logic. Luxury houses have, if anything, only accelerated this approach in recent years, as global streaming and social media have made it easier than ever for a single ambassador's reach to translate directly into measurable brand visibility across dozens of markets at once. None of this diminishes what Lisa has built. If anything, it places her achievement in proper context. She's one of several major entertainers whose global influence has been recognized and rewarded by an industry that has increasingly come to depend on exactly that kind of cultural reach. Part 8. What this moment says about modern fame. Step back far enough, and this entire story is really a snapshot of something bigger happening across modern celebrity culture. In the social media era, the boundaries between someone's professional life, public persona, and personal life have become increasingly porous, not because celebrities are sharing more of their private lives necessarily, but because audiences now have access to a constant stream of public appearances, campaign announcements, and candid photos to piece together on their own. That constant visibility creates an information landscape where fans often know an enormous amount about the documented parts of someone's life, and correspondingly little about the parts that remain genuinely private, which is exactly the gap this story fills with narrative and speculation. That gap isn't a flaw in the system so much as a natural consequence of it. The more publicly documented someone's professional life becomes, the more noticeable and more tempting to fill in the remaining privacy around their personal life starts to feel. Lisa's case is a particularly clear example simply because both halves of her public life happen to intersect with the same institution, but the underlying dynamic, extensive public documentation of a career, alongside almost total silence on a personal relationship, plays out constantly across modern celebrity culture, for public figures with no connection to fashion or luxury business at all. So where does that leave us? With two real, well-documented threads. One, a fashion career built over years of genuine industry recognition. The other, a personal story that remains, and may always remain, unconfirmed. Neither one needs to be reduced to a single explanation. Lisa's professional relationship with LVMH's fashion houses doesn't need a personal storyline to make sense of it. It makes sense entirely on its own terms, built the same way any major ambassador career is built, years before any of this speculation existed. And whatever is or isn't true about her personal life is, quite simply, not something outsiders are owed an answer to. It's completely natural to find this overlap fascinating. Two worlds this large rarely intersect, and when they do, curiosity is a pretty reasonable response. Just worth remembering that curiosity and certainty aren't the same thing.